Divisional weekend generally is the best weekend in football. At least it has that kind of reputation. 8 teams, 4 games, the best of the best. Now, if we're being honest, this time around, the first 2 games of the weekend were not that great. They weren't that same number of holy crap moments that we've come to expect from the divisional weekend. Then came Cleveland at Kansas City. And here comes my guy, Andy Reid, needing to bring a wheelbarrow to work every single day to cart around his onions. My man's got a massive set of stones. Nothing but respect for Big Red and the way he called that game, especially in the fourth quarter with a backup quarterback in the game. And not just any backup quarterback, but Chad Henne. Chad freaking Henne. If Patrick Mahomes is a cheat code, playing with Chad Henne in a playoff game is like playing without a controller. It's like trying to plug a Super Nintendo controller into a PS5. And yet my guy, Andrew Reid, was able to do just that. You know that old saying, right? The old saying about a great coach, that he can take his guys and beat your guys, and he can take your guys and beat his guys, right? You know that. Well, yesterday, Andy Reid took nobody's guy and beat a damn good Browns team. But before I get to everything that went down in the fourth quarter, I need to take a moment to talk to my people. I need to talk to my people. C-Town. Pull up a chair. Let's wrap. Let's chat. Now, I'm going to spare you the line about how you've got nothing to be ashamed of, even though that's true. Nor am I going to say something truly hack like, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. You know why I'm not going to do that? Because yesterday sucked. I mean, it really did. The Cleveland Browns, the team that nobody believed in outside the 53 men in that locker room, and the one right here in this studio, went into Kansas City, and they had the defending champs on the ropes. That game was right there for them, right there for the taking. They were this close to advancing to the AFC Championship game. This freaking close. In fact, I'll go a step further. They didn't even play their best game, and they were still right in it. They were still right there. They made mistakes. They had drops. And they were still right freaking there. But there are no consolation prizes. No. This Browns team went big game hunting this year. They weren't just looking to reach the playoffs or just get to the divisional round. They were looking for the Lombardi. And they were this close. That's how good. That's how tough this team was. And yes, they inspired an entire nation. They restored everybody's faith in humanity. But again, there are no consolation prizes. They're not going to make up a trophy for themselves just to make themselves feel better. Because as Baker Mayfield has been saying all along, this is the new standard. This is not a fluke or an exception. This is what is to be expected. And they're going to get right back on that grind. They'll come back even better next season. Stronger, better, faster. And did I say better? And I can't wait. I cannot wait. Oh, and one more note on yesterday. From a Cleveland perspective, man, they got robbed. They got jobbed so hard. And I'm not saying that because I'm the one that built that Cleveland Browns bandwagon. I'm saying that because it's a fact. I'm saying this because late in the first half, they got absolutely screwed by the worst rule in football. No, that's not fair. That's not right. The worst rule in sports, all of sports, down 16-3 with less than 2 minutes to go in the first half. This happened. Exactly right. Westwood won. You know, I'm not sure what's worse about that play. The fact that Kansas City was not flagged for illegal use of the helmet, or the fact that Cleveland got jammed by the single worst rule in the history of sports. Answer, it's both. Man, that rule is so bad. That rule is terrible. But the lack of a flag was a truckload of salt into that wound. So instead of Cleveland getting a touchdown and looking at the possibility of heading into the half down 16-10 and getting the ball to start the second half, they lose the ball, they don't get the points, and then Kansas City tacks on a field goal before halftime. Again, the rule about the ball being fumbled out of the end zone and going to the defense really is the worst rule ever. I mean, it's idiotic. Seriously, there is no comparison. The catch rule thinks that rule is moronic. If you fumble out of bounds on the 1-inch line, you get the ball on the 1-inch line. If you fumble 2 inches later and the ball goes out of bounds, the defense gets the ball. How does that make sense? I can answer that for you. It doesn't. It never has. You can't reward the defense for not touching the ball, let alone not recovering the ball. I mean, it's like deranged. And the worst part is, we know it's a terrible rule. Everybody has known it's a terrible rule for years, and yet it still exists. And yesterday, it bit the Browns in the ass. But as much as yesterday was about that horrible rule, it was about another rule. All right? It was about the horrible rule, and it was about this rule. This rule being that Andy Reid rules. Man, my man is the absolute best, isn't he? No, dude, you are the best, Andy. You are the best. It's not even close. It's you and everybody else. Stop saying I'm the best, Andy. Man, stop saying that, Coach. Stop saying that. Nobody better than you. And there's no better example of him winning a playoff game with Chad Henne as his quarterback as evidence that Andy Reid's the greatest ever. Like, I know everybody wants to say that the only reason that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are having the success they're having right now is because they have a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Except yesterday, Andy and Eric proved that all wrong because yesterday, this happened. That was scary. Very scary moment. So Mahomes goes into concussion protocol. Chad Henne comes into the game. I mean, seriously, Chad Henne. And Andy Reid figures out a way to win that game. And no, I'm not here to bury Kevin Stefanski for punting on 4th and 9 from his own 32 with 4:19 left in the game. I mean, he was going up against Chad Henne. Henne had just thrown a pick on the last possession. It was a terrible pick at that. So if you're the opposing team, you want to get the ball back in his hands because good things are bound to happen for you. And sure enough, the Browns defense gets to 3rd and 4 almost immediately. A good thing was about to happen. And yet somehow Andy and Eric managed to avoid those good things happening for the Browns. Instead, they managed to make great things happen for themselves. Henne completes a pass for 5 yards and a first down. Then Cleveland gets that huge Myles Garrett sack on 2nd down. Then you've got them 3rd and long, exactly where you want it. 3rd and 14, and then somehow, some way, this miracle happens. One of the damnedest things I've ever seen. Like seeing a lunar eclipse and the northern lights at the exact same time. Chad Henne scrambling like that was a freak of nature event. It defied so many laws, and yet it still happened. And then my guy, Andy Reid, goes absolute legend on 4th down. Watching that live, I thought Tony Romo was going to have a heart attack. He was so shocked and so fired up. It was incredible. Because Andy Reid didn't go for it on 4th down with Patrick Mahomes. He did it with his backup quarterback. And not just any backup quarterback. He did it with Chad Henne. And he did it at midfield. Like, if you don't get that, you're giving the ball and every bit of momentum back to the Browns on a really short field. That was an absolutely massive play call. But then again, to my guy Andy Reid, it was nothing at all. Man, we should have all known. He's right when he says there was no doubt. There was no doubt on our side. I don't know about the rest of the world. Man, the rest of the world should have known. They should have known. We should have known. That's why he's Andy Reid and none of us are. That's why there's only one Andy Reid. That was a big-time play call by Big Red. And that's why they're moving on. Because Andy Reid is a freaking legend. And because Andy Reid loves Javier's. How do I know? He told me on this show after I saw him at Javier's.
I love the place. I mean, I love it. And you said it. You always see people in there that you don't expect to see. I was as excited to see you as you were me. So, I mean, we haven't talked in a long time, and we used to talk all the time, and for no reason other than I moved back to Kansas City here, and it was kind of a new start. But it was great to see you, and your family's phenomenal. I mean, you had a load there now. People don't realize that table that was a long table you had. You have a beautiful wife in Janet. Your son, he was beaming, man, 17 years old. It doesn't get any better. Living in California, eating at Javier's, 17-year birthday, and I mean, come on. How much better does it get?
I don't know, Coach. Going for it on 4th and 1 the way you did at midfield? This guy is so amazing. Andy Reid. And let me correct one thing he said. He said in that conversation that you just heard that he was more excited to see me than I was him. Biggest lie ever. Nobody has ever been more excited about anything than I was to see Andy Reid that night at Javier's in Crystal Cove. And then I got to say, man, you know I'm all about America's team. You know, nobody has been riding with them the way I have been. Front and center, shotgun on that bandwagon. If they got to go down, if they have to go down, and they have to go down the way they did, may as well be to my guy, Andy Reid.
All right, Jim, you're the best, man.
No, Coach, you. And America's team. So the Chiefs back in the AFC Championship game, and Seatown, you know, there are no consolation prizes. It sucks. That was tough.